You think I'm nothing, just a shadow to be stepped on?" Darius gripped the mop handle so tightly his knuckles turned white. His uniform was damp with sweat, his pride drowning beneath the laughter echoing through the grand dining hall. Across from him, a teenage boy draped in designer silk leaned back in his chair, a smug grin plastered on his face. "Man, why are you so mad? You're just the help." Laughter exploded like a gunshot. Crystal glasses clinked. Forks scraped against expensive porcelain. No one saw the fury rising in Darius's chest. His vision blurred. His entire life had been a fight to be seen, a fight to be respected. And now they were laughing at him. A deep, commanding voice shattered the mockery. "What did you just say to him?" The room fell into a suffocating silence. The boy's smirk faded. His fingers trembled. Because standing in the doorway, his father, the CEO of the entire corporation, had just arrived. And in the next 60 seconds, everything was about to change. The scent of roasted duck, aged wine, and freshly polished marble filled the air, blending seamlessly with the quiet symphony of crystal glasses clinking and murmured conversations. Golden chandeliers hung like floating suns, casting a soft glow over the ballroom, illuminating the wealth and privilege that saturated every inch of the room. The guests, wrapped in silk, velvet, and arrogance, moved effortlessly, their laughter rich with the kind of confidence only old money could afford. Everything was perfect, flawless, untouchable, except for the man standing near the corner, gripping a mop handle so tightly his knuckles had turned bone white. Darius Monroe had worked at Davenport Hall for 3 years, his presence reduced to a shadow, a ghost, seen but never acknowledged. The uniform he wore, the dull gray of the staff, ensured that. He was furniture, a function, not a man, the kind of person the elite walked past without a second glance, unless, of course, they needed something cleaned. Tonight was different. There was a storm in his chest, a pressure building with every breath he took, an anger, quiet but relentless, growing sharper with every dismissive glance thrown his way. He had felt this before, the weight of being looked down on, the suffocation of being nothing in their eyes, but never this strong. His grip tightened on the mop. The scent of bleach clashed with the expensive perfumes that hung in the air, a stark reminder of who he was, who they thought he was. Then, Liam Davenport's voice cut through the hum of the ballroom like a sharpened knife. "Hey, mop boy." Darius froze. His pulse thrummed in his ears, drowning out the music. He could feel the weight of the room shift toward him, a slow ripple of attention turning in his direction. Liam was perched on one of the velvet lounge chairs, his leg casually draped over the armrest, champagne glass dangling between his fingers. He was 18 years old, a walking inheritance, entitled, careless, dangerous. Darius had seen his kind before, the type who never heard the word no, the type who walked into a room and expected it to bend around them, untouchable, unstoppable. Liam's smirk widened as Darius didn't immediately respond. "What, you deaf too?" he mused, swirling the champagne in his glass. "Guess that comes with being born less." Laughter, cold, amused, echoing across the ballroom. It burned into Darius's skin, seared through his pride like a brand. He had been here before, too many times, 3 years. 3 years of swallowing his pride, 3 years of lowering his gaze, of biting his tongue, of pretending words didn't cut like blades. But tonight, something inside him cracked. Darius turned, slowly, deliberately. The mop handle in his grip felt heavier, the weight of 1,000 unspoken words pressing into his fingers. Liam grinned like a man who had never known consequences. "That's right," he continued, voice dripping with amusement. "You work for us, so why don't you get on your knees and do what you were made for?" Silence. A thick, suffocating silence settled over the room. Darius could feel the shift in the air, the anticipation, the expectation. He had two choices. He could bow his head like always. He could let this moment pass, let them laugh, let himself disappear back into the background. Or his grip tightened, his heart pounded. He took a step forward, and in that moment, Darius made a decision. Tonight, they would remember his name. Darius locked eyes with Liam, a fire burning in his chest that refused to be extinguished. 3 years of silence, 3 years of humiliation, 3 years of swallowing every insult, every condescending glance. But not tonight. Not anymore. The room held its breath. The golden glow of the chandeliers felt harsher, casting long, jagged shadows across the polished floors. The scent of aged bourbon and expensive perfume felt suffocating now. The very air thick with something unstable, electric. Then Liam laughed. "Look at you," he mused, tilting his head. "All that anger, but what are you gonna do? Huh? Mop me to death?" More laughter. It sliced through the room like a blade, sharp and cruel. Darius could feel it happening again, the moment they expected him to break, to bow his head, to slink away like a beaten dog. But instead, he let go of the mop. The sound of the wooden handle hitting the floor echoed louder than the music, louder than the chatter, louder than anything else in that suffocating space. For the first time, Liam's smirk faltered. Darius took a step closer. The air between them thickened, the space shrinking until Liam could no longer ignore the weight of his presence. "I think," Darius said, voice steady, cold, "you should pick that up." A collective gasp rippled through the guests. Liam's jaw tightened. "Excuse me?" Darius didn't blink. "You heard me." The room felt off balance, unstable, the kind of tension that made people stop breathing, made them watch with wide eyes because something was about to happen. Liam scoffed, forcing a chuckle, but there was an edge of uncertainty now, a shift in the dynamic that made him uneasy. "You think you can talk to me like that?" he sneered, rising from his seat. "You, Go ahead," Darius interrupted, his voice steel, unshaken. "Finish that sentence." Silence. Liam's hands curled into fists. He wasn't used to this. He wasn't used to being challenged, wasn't used to someone like Darius standing in front of him without fear. And that's what terrified him the most. Then, before he could speak. "Everything okay here, sir?" A new voice, deep, commanding. Liam turned, irritation flashing across his face, but his expression shifted the moment he saw who had spoken. Samuel Carter, the head of security, a man built like a tank, broad shoulders stretching against the fabric of his black suit, his eyes sharp and calculating. Darius had seen him before, seen the way he moved, the way he watched. Unlike the guests in this room, Samuel wasn't blind. He saw everything. Liam's lips parted, but for the first time, he hesitated. "Everything's fine," he muttered, but his voice lacked confidence. Darius could feel it, the unraveling. The moment Liam realized that, for the first time in his privileged life, he wasn't untouchable. But just as quickly as that crack appeared, Liam's arrogance returned. He plastered on a smirk, turned back to Darius, and shrugged. "You're lucky," he said smoothly. Too smoothly. Darius felt a shiver run down his spine. Something about the way Liam said it. The way his eyes darkened, the way his smirk turned crueler. Made the hairs on his arms stand up. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. And Darius knew. He had just made an enemy out of the most dangerous kind of person, a rich boy with a bruised ego. Darius tried to shake it off, tried to breathe through the adrenaline still pumping through his veins. But something felt wrong. The rest of his shift passed in a blur, but he could feel the eyes, watching, waiting. He should have felt satisfied. He had stood his ground. He had looked Liam Davenport in the face and refused to bend. But the problem with people like Liam? They didn't forget. They didn't let things go. And when Darius stepped out of the back exit that night, the cold air slapping against his skin, the rain falling in heavy sheets, he wasn't alone. A dark figure stood near the alleyway, half hidden in shadow. Darius stopped in his tracks. Something prickled at the back of his neck, and then a slow, deliberate voice. "You really shouldn't have done that." And just like that, he knew. He had just stepped into something much bigger than himself. Darius's breath came in ragged gasps, his soaked shirt clinging to his skin, his pulse hammered in his ears, the night pressing in around him like a vice. He wasn't supposed to survive this. Liam had made sure of that. The moment he had stepped into that alley, he had sealed his fate. It had started with a warning, a low, mocking voice from the shadows. "You really shouldn't have done that." Then, a sudden force, a fist to his ribs, a sharp kick to his side. The impact sent him sprawling onto the wet pavement, the metallic taste of blood filling his mouth. Laughter echoed around him, cruel and merciless. Liam wasn't here. Of course he wasn't. Men like him never got their hands dirty, but his message was loud and clear. Darius had overstepped, and now he was paying the price. The kicks stopped. The men exchanged uneasy glances. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Darius wiped the blood from his lip and met their eyes. "You tell Liam..." His voice came out rough but unwavering. "If he thinks this is over, he's dead wrong." A heavy silence, then the unmistakable sound of sirens. Police. The thugs scattered, vanishing into the darkness. Darius stayed where he was, his chest rising and falling in slow, steady defiance. He had won. Not because he had fought back, but because he hadn't stayed down, because for the first time in his life he had refused to let someone decide his worth. Days passed, bruises healed, pain faded, but something had changed. Darius wasn't invisible anymore. People whispered when he walked by. Some nodded in quiet respect. Others avoided his gaze. And then there was Liam, the golden boy who had never lost. For the first time, he looked nervous, because the world had watched. And Darius? Darius was still standing. As he walked past Liam without a word, something passed between them. Not fear, not anger, but power. Because no matter how much money Liam had, he would never have that. And that was priceless. A message to the audience: Darius's story isn't just his own, it's everyone's. How many times have you been told to stay in your place, that you don't belong? How many times have you been knocked down, expected to just accept it? But what if you didn't? What if, like Darius, you got back up? This isn't about revenge, it's about respect. And sometimes the strongest thing you can do is refuse to break. What would you have done in Darius's place? Comment below. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Because these stories, they deserve to be heard.